let's talk about the World Championship of Warhammer, specifically the painting aspect, because it was not really covered. You know, the it's WCW. I call it the Warhammer World Championship of Warhammer, just because it's uh, stupid, but I can never remember like the real name. It's WCW, Warhammer Championship of the World of Warhammer, uh, and yeah, this is an event for for real hardcore players. Really, you have to be invited. You have to win like a tournament or place really high, and then it's like 300 people for 40K, and I think 200 or something like that for Age of Sigmar. And it's all all savages. Like somebody said, like this could be any game the entire weekend could be the final of any GT tournament that you have like in your hometown. It would be the final game, but that's your like round two for no reason. And you round three, the exact same thing. So it's a really hard and competitive thing, but they're also since it's like the World Championship, there's a lot of like really beautiful armies, which is what we're going to talk about today. Yeah, I haven't seen the coverage at all. I don't even think it was on Warhammer Community, like posted anywhere. So we're gonna do this, review this like we did for the Golden Demons, because that's also a fun thing that I did when I went to go check out some Golden Demons. But now we have armies, and armies is really my thing. I love painted armies. I talk about painting armies all the time. It's my favorite. So, as usual with these painting things, we have to start with a little caveat of each of these armies is like a 10 out of 10, right? All of these, they made the showcase. They are the best of the best. Like out of the, 300 for Warhammer 40K, and then I'm assuming 150 or 200 for Age of Sigmar. These guys are the top. So all of them, they're they did the thing, right? But since we have to tell them apart, well, of course, we're going to talk about stuff that we like and don't like, right? So even if I say something, negative about something, it's still it's the 10 out of 10. But it's how do you tell them apart, right? So do not take this, with you said that he thinks he's trash. Nothing here is trash, right? Especially nothing that you see here. Zach Como here, fellow Canuck, fellow hoser with the Imperial Guard, and like a super vibrant yellow. There were lots of yellow armies, and looking at this, there's a lot of like cool things. All the pictures, of course, I had to fight other people to take them, because they were lined up. It was not like because it was like multiple rows, so you had to like your butt to butt. Sometimes it was weird. So Zach Como's army here, a really really cool army, all yellow, bunch of converted stuff. Most of them I think are the Ors Erzi, and then in the back you can see the converted Sentinels. Those are really cool, like pogo stick walkers or something. They're really a really cool army, and also it's rare that you see like a bright yellow Imperial Guard, so I really like that. A couple of things I'm less a fan of: the Earthshaker Medusas are kind of like really cool, but the addition, like the idea of the scroll or the banner is really cool, but the execution of it, in my mind, was kind of maybe a weaker point. And same thing with the Dozer Blade. I feel like the Hazard Stripe are a little bit like weird, because they don't look the same level as the rest of the army, right? It's like on a comparison basis. Like it's cool details, but when you compare it to the rest of it, they look subpar. So it really sticks out that way. But overall, like a really, really cool army. Really, it feels a very like a David Koska's army. More airbrush, of course, but like the tones and everything, and the bases like with full of like vegetation and stuff. So a really cool army. Which one's that? Oh, yes, I believe that this is the winner again. There was no big announcement or anything. I think Travis won the painting prize. I played him round 3 or 4. I don't remember. But I played him at some point in the event. That's what he was telling me. He won his golden ticket at Nova with the best painted army, which is I think this one, and then he upped it. It's superb. Like I'm a Custodes lover to begin with, but this army was just great. The purple and the turquoise together is just amazing. Like the purple cloaks and details, and then the turquoise power weapons is just chef's kiss good. And then he's got also a bunch of conversion. Like lots of the Sigmarines mixed in there. Like he's got a Blade Champion. That's the the lady Stormcast hero, and then he's got the Bastian something, I think, for as is Trajan Valoris, and all the bikes are actually some of the cavalry from Age of Sigmar, but with conversions and stuff. So, like, one thing that I think he did really well with these conversions is that they all looked like custodies. They never looked like Stormcasts, and I think that's where a lot of these like conversions fall short when people do it. Is that the Stormcast still they're custodies, but they still look like Stormcast and they're unmistakable. These ones custodies all the way. It just again a great army and then simple and to the point. Like the painting, there's not a lot of like extra, like insane thing. It's just effective stuff. I think it's a great army. If it didn't win, I'm I'm sorry to the winner. But somebody told me that Travis was the winner. And anyway, it's just a great army. Other bases with like a lot of vegetation and stuff. It's really not my go-to. So I like when I see it because that's not something that I do a lot of. Thomas Burden, the Ultramarines. I mean, of course, if you have a display board with a fucking Thunderhawk, of course it's gonna make the showcase. You probably seen this army on YouTube if you look around. If you're an enthusiast, I think he's Pro Tabletop. I think is the Tabletop Live or something like that. There's a YouTube channel. He plays Ultramarines all the time since forever. Just a beautiful army, and then it's very Games Workshop ish. There's the big landing pad that I believe is a Forge World tile, and the big Thunderhawk on top. So Games Workshop fanboys rejoice here. It's just a cool army. Big thematic and stuff. It's just great, just good. And it also you kind of need one. If there's not one Ultramarines in your showcase, like you're fucking up. Sweet Lou and the Votan. Lots of Votan, by the way. This one, I like this scheme, like the mint color. Definitely great. I also really like his conversion in the middle there. You can see... the camera's cut off. In the middle, he's got like the conversion beamers, I think, or I don't know, graviton gun maybe, with like the effect on it, and he's got a couple of like rifle blasts as well. I like these little cartoony effects. One thing I don't really fancy is, of course, the display board where the army doesn't fit on it. I'm gonna assume that it was a travel purposes for the display board because it's kind of small, but to me it doesn't add a lot to it, especially because the bases have a lot of snow on them. The display board does not. So like we saw with Travis has like no display board at all. So the display board was like not really a factor in this in the scoring. I think they made it a point of not being, how Adepticon is really, if you don't have a display board, you like kind of don't bother with the painting. They made a point to do the opposite of like, if you have one, it's cool. If you don't have one, don't worry. So you don't have to like scramble to find something and travel with something. So, so this one of the numerous Votan. One other cool thing is that all of his Votan, except I think the leader dude in the middle, he went all with the enclosed little helmet. Like they're all automatons, not the actual dwarves. So it's a dwarfless dwarf army. I think that's very that's funny because I go the opposite. I like the heads. I don't like the little helmets, so I tried to do the exact opposite. So one of many Votan army, a pretty cool one. I love them. This minty color. I'm gonna do something with this type. I love this color. It's gonna be something soon. I'm not even gonna try that name. I think it's from Singapore or Thailand. I believe he was at the WTC this year playing Custodes. But a really cool Knights Army. This is I love Knights Army. Like this is like super textbook. Like this is like you pull a page out of a codex. There's this army right there, and then I like the sisters. Like the Immolator is probably the best, one of the best model in the entire showcase. That Immolator, like the little window detail in the front, like just so great. It's just great. And then the Canis Rex has the pilot inside. I love that too. So again, lots of Knights Army. This one I like. Also, the War Dogs are all pretty much individualistic. Like the two of them have the Forge World plates, the Mechanicus front in them. So I like this a lot, and then they have like different little patterns and stuff. So overall, just a great Knights army, like really clean. Our boy Steph here with the Space Wolves, one of two Space Wolves, I believe. And this one features all the cool wolf stuff, so lots of wolfen. I like the. I'm a sucker for like infantry guys with like a wolf next to them. I like that a lot. We painted one of those on stream at some point. He also went for wings, like eagle wings on the jump packs, which I think is really nice. And this is another one of those I think these are like classic Games Workshop paint job. Like you would see this in a book, you would not think twice that this is fan made. This would be like just a good codex level type of paint job. I think like it looks probably better than codex. I don't know where Games Workshop stands these days with like quality of painting, but this is very like in sync, right, with the overall look. More Votan, I like these ones. These ones were heavily airbrushed, but one thing that's really cool, and then the picture is not. Maybe the next one is no. Next one's something different. He's got like all these runes, and they're painted to glow on the tanks. Like the picture does not make it justice, but all the little like greenish stuff on the tanks, they're all glowing symbols of Votan. They have some on the shoulder plates as well. That was really well. And this is a very airbrushed army. And I'm assuming that back home this guy has a display board that goes with those sick lava bases. This is just a great Votan army. I like everything about this. Blue like this is not where I would go with Votan, especially with the red and then the yellow, green, and then the pink. Like there's a lot of like vibrant color in there. And then the lava bases, that's like that's completely that's like not my style, so I appreciate like seeing it because that's not something I would do really. So I like this one. This is I think my second favorite Votan. There's another one that's like really cool later, but this one I like again, just because it's not something that I would go towards myself. I think it's just great. This is Rhett, my buddy Rhett Tremblay, another Canuck. Played next to Rhett like the entire tournament because we were doing great at games for most part. Just a great, again, another blue and red, all the extra details on these knights. I know Rhett he told me, he said like, I'm going here with a beautifully painted army. I don't care if I win or lose. It's not a big deal. This is my favorite like prettiest army. That's what I want to play. So I mean, job successful, right? Like I want to paint a beautiful army. He did, and then he made the showcase with it, so mission accomplished. I like this army. I mean, maybe the weak point is the Calidus Assassin because the base looks so... It looks kind of different than the other ones. I don't know why exactly. But there's really not a lot of like low points to this. This is just great. Like heavy contrast, extra details. I like it a lot. Lots of fluo green too, so always extra points in here from Max Dubois when you have like fluo green. Let's moving on here. Ryan McGuire. Like this, first of all, Ryan is a G because that building over there is a Pegasus Games, not a Games Workshop piece, and then still made showcase. So that's the power move that I love and appreciate here. Obviously, this is a cool orc. There are not a lot of orc army, and then this for me, this is like I have a hard time with like mismatched armies, and like orcs is hard because it's an army that like you tend to mismatch, like you do one way. In this case, the Beast Snaggers are one way, the Grots are two ways, it looks like, and then the Flash Gits are their own little thing. So, like, and then the Cosgull is also like the Cosgull is really cool, but it's also its own thing. That for me, that I find that hard to like. That's not my style. But like, if you pick every model, like every model is gorgeous. It's just as a whole for me that's really not my jam. Oh yeah, Sasha Alexander, Edelkraut. I've played against like a version of this army. Sasha always when he plays Marine, he always plays this army since a couple of years now, I guess. Black Templar, Imperial Fist / Black Templar, and then they play with whatever. They're Imperial Fist, and then right now they're just playing it as Black Templar. And just I love this army because there's a lot of detail, and much like the other yellow army, I think there's a lot of the smaller. There's a lot of the smaller details in this one that are maybe not as high standard as the rest of the army. And I think that's where it like falls short. Like the unit in the back is like statues. Like I'm guessing it's objectives, but it's really hard to tell. And if they're not objectives, then I'm completely off base. Maybe oh no, it must be a Black Templar character that I don't know about because I suck at the game. Or the banner. If you look at the guy up front, is that Grimaldus or Sigismund? I never make the whatever the guy in front. If you look at the banner like it's really, it's like big. It's red. It's a conversion, and it just kind of falls a little bit short next to all the tanks with the extra details and the stencils and whatnot, or the freehand on the Land Raider. So a lot of the small stuff I think is where you could take this really really high level where maybe now it's not. With the triple Rogaldorn, these ones I didn't see the army for super long, but the Rogaldorns were awesome. They just a super crisp paint job. I really really like it. So I'm assuming I didn't look at the infantry at all. The only reason I remember this one, I took the picture, but I was probably moving. But I saw it because it was playing next to me at one point, and so I love the Rogaldorns were mind blowing. I love them a lot, and I wish I had a close up of the knight because there's a lot of love put in that knight. But the thing I remember is the Rogaldorn. Like I spent a solid 5 minutes looking at the Dorns, and we will never know if the Dorn holes are covered. We will never know. Cool Chaos Knights army here. With like a solid team as well, and I like that the bases are kind of like the yellowish and they match the muted gold that's on the knight. That I really like that because it makes the little light blue like stand out really well. I also dig that the demons are kind of in a similar scheme. They're clearly different, like they're not the light blue, but they're in a very similar scheme. So I really like that. I think that again, that's the style that I like, where the army looks cohesive. That's really more my approach than like what I was saying about the orcs. That I was less a fan of this, because you could have done this and then gone like with the freaking like bright green plague bearers and beast of Nurgle, and then that's just to me that's not my jam at all. It doesn't take away from the technical aspect of it. It's just I love this because I feel like this looks like an army, so I like this a lot. Gene Steel. Oh, I played against this army as well. Cool G circle with the little is it Bioshock with the little big bubble head in the back over there. Just a cool army. Another dude that again, I'm not too familiar with the army, but it's a very pretty army, and I want to paint it and I want to play it. And that's what I can't, obviously I cropped the name and I can't remember, but I played him. And cool thing about like the crystals is, from a painting standpoint, the crystals are really on the bases are really not great, even though I guess they fit the theme that like Genester Cult are like mining people and whatnot, like the working class people that in the mines. But in terms of painting, they really fall short. But since I played them, I know for a fact that this is squad markings. Like one red is one thing, two red crystals is another unit, and so on and so forth with like the colors and the numbers. And when he plays, it's really easy. Like I had no problem understanding what was going on, and even like calling out what I was doing when I played him. So that's really cool. But I do think it takes away strictly from a painting perspective. I think that maybe is the falls a little bit short. But again, for this kind of army, for the sake of gameplay, like I get it. Nick Blackburn, another blue vote, two blue Votan in this showcase. So one thing here, like again, since game, like the display board for me, this is a killer. Like it's a buildable box, unpainted, with a clearly cut up mat, because it's got the freaking lines from deployment. Like this, since they were like kind of allowing you to not bring bases, I don't understand why Nick brought his. That is beyond me. Maybe it's just like for simplicity. Like I don't know. I don't know. He was feeling that they maybe he just brought the fucking case and he chucked it on the table. Said, "Fine, you want my army? Here it is." And then he like didn't want to like place every mini like one by one. That could be it as well. But you know, another good army. This one is just I think very technically proficient in all the details because Votans have a lot of details. So the more like when you see them and they look clean, it's really cool because that means that all the details are done and they're not like meddled with the army. So I like this a lot. The Jaguar, as we call him, another fellow Nick Blackburn, fellow Canuck. Nick Jagello, Canuck as well. One of the coolest armies. Usually places very well. Don't know if he placed. Don't know where he placed in the Games Workshop thing. This army entirely converted. Really cool. All Chaos Guard. I think I have one close up. Also, is Lord Commander is there we go. Is an Archaon, converted Archaon, and you can see the details in the tank, like a lot of extra work put in there. Also, he's got the inside sponson for his Lemon Rust. I think that's just so great because it fits the Siege of Vrax theme very well. So this army just a great. I've seen it like up close a bunch of times. He's also got his chimeras are landing crafts, I guess, boarding crafts, like the Gorgon, but like on a chimera sized, and the bikes are the Rough Riders. Just lots of love went into this army. You just can't tell, it's everything converted. It's just a great, and also another yellow. So I like when we get two right now, like we get two yellow guards. So we can compare basically apples to apples with, of course, this one is like spikes and stuff, but still, it always puts things in perspective. Same thing with the blue Votan. We have like two of the almost like, not obviously not the same, but very close. So you can tell. So I like that. This Nick's army is just great, and he's got like a lot of them. It's not just like this is just not a small 2,000 points. No. A big collection too, all to that standard. Dumka, I think we've covered Dum's army on this channel before. One best overall at Adepticon, one best display at Adepticon with not this display, a much bigger one because there was 4,000 points of it. Every single model is converted, everything painted to a super high standard. No, this is just a great army. If you've been to any like North American event in the past like couple of years, you've probably seen Dom's army around. He plays Marines, and then they're all converted, so he plays them as like different things every time. He also has Grey Knights, and that fits this scheme. It's just a phenomenal army. I think he finished second in painting or third or something. He finished really high. Again, his army, just great. I've talked about it a bunch before, so I'm not gonna. This is just a great army. And I love like parts of this army and some stuff I'm not a fan of. I like the red on the guns. I just wish there was more of it because since it's only on a select few models, I think that looks not weird per se, but it definitely I think it takes away. And also I hate with a passion the way he did the Thunder Hammers on the big NDKs, like the white, blue, black spread. Does not work at all for me. That being said, I've painted a bunch of these hammers and they are really hard to do. Like I've painted some that sucked way more than this, but these ones they're a no for me. That's my only kind of concern. I love that he's got the blue glow across the army, and then the bases are super matte and with a purple tone to them. That part I do love. I like very much like a lot of everything except like a couple of the hammers. I think because they become the focal point of the mini, so that it's hard to, especially with the yellow and the green. Then you have like two things to kind of look at, and then one of them, if you don't like it, well, it's kind of hard. And then some other thing like the Psy cannons are blue, not the red and yellow. There's like a lot of like it's again. It's a great army. It's just some small details that you look at and you just go, huh. That's a moment of it's as my friend Francois would say, it certainly is a choice. This is like a really cool style. Again, the power swords are all great. Like the power sword from that one's Drago, but the you can see the Albert on the left. It's just great, and so like the entire army, like the infantry is really cool. The big guys, I have yeah, a little bit of I'm saying problem. Like I personally, I'm just saying, if these little details were slightly different, my appreciation would be way higher. But the overall army, I really love. Another beautiful, nice army. Look at the big guy in the right, like the level of detail that went in there, and the super high contrast. And this is another one of those. Even though all the small guys are slightly different, they all fit into an army. Like you can see, it looks like an army. So I like that a lot. Again, I've said it, even the Canis Rex with the red, it matches the red on the other minis. Even though he's like completely different, right? Like he's silver and he has got the white where the other minis don't. But with the red matching and then the base that's like very similar, a little bit more grass on it. So I really like this, and again, knight players did do a great job. Like there's a lot of knights, but like just great. They're just great minis, they're just great minis. Oh, this chaos. I hope I have a close up. That rhino, that one was playing next to one of my friends. It was probably in the same pattern, the same stats. So I saw his army a lot, and it's just a great looking army. It's like chaos, really cool units. Yes, look at that rhino, the zebra pattern with the chaos star on top. Just like, oh, I love this. And then the entire army is painted to this standard. It's got like freehand on like most of the stuff. Again, this army I really love because that's not something that I would go towards. And this display board is ballin'. For all my trash talking about other display board, this is very like overall like kind of simple, right? Like it's a board with like a hill. It's got great details. It fits with the bases. Like it really centers the army. Everything fits with like space. So I like this. This was one of my favorite Imperial Knights. And yellow, two of the like clearly the judges really like the bright colors because we see big knights, we see a lot of yellow, and we also see bright bases. That seems to be a very like there are more of these than of the rest. These knights I kind of enjoy. Also, this one also has like a lot of detail. All the inside guys, like boop, little pilot in there. Look at that transfer too, like the either freehand or transfer. Look at how well it's like blended and weathered in. So I really like it. This is like an extreme close up. Like so you see, like this shows the imperfection, or it shows also precision. Because if you look at the highlight and the here, like look at that. Whoops. Look like the highlights around the gold trim, just like they're done really, really well. But yeah, overall, so another cool Knights army. I think Knights is a really cool army because you get so many models, so you can put that much extra effort into them, and then it really shows. This one is Caleb Edwards, fellow Canuck. That's some of them I know. This is another one of those. This army is definitely not for me, but it is great. Like everything in this is like out of this world. Do I have a close up of this one? We do not. Like everything about this army is like converted heavily, but the paint style is so out there. Like this is not that just not for me. Like pastel and neon and like synthwave type feel, definitely not my jam. But it just because again, when you look at it as an army, it's hard to make sense. It looks all over the place for me. But again, you pick up any of these mini, they're amazing. Like the big Isleonthus is like a converted Scragbad, Moz, whatever, the big shark thing from the orcs, painted as like a jaguar. Like it's everything is mind blowing in this. It again, the style that he's chosen is really not for me. So, but great. I think this won Adepticon too in terms of painting or overall a couple of years ago, or parts of this maybe. I don't know how, or it's just a different one. But again, this just not my style. But great execution, but the style is not for me. That's the corn army that I talked about. Fits in a case. In terms of like high quality, I feel like that Angron and the two Forge Fiends were probably the highest quality of the entire display board. But yeah, so this one here was kind of a little bit hit or miss. Like some of the infantry I thought were not up to the standard of, again, the Angron and the Forge Fiend, but then again, the Angron and the Forge Fiend are centerpieces of the army, and they're also so high level that making this entire thing up to that level is not realistic. But I think this army, I also like the case because I'm assuming that you can close it and then the chains and the little steps that they're on folds and then it all enters into the case. Not with the minis in, obviously, but in terms of a display board, like an ingenious display board, I like the idea. Brian Jones, Imperial Knights, again, this one, I'll just flat out say I don't really understand why it was in the showcase, because when you compare it to the other Knights army, it's not, it doesn't feel to the same standard as the other one that we saw. Again, I'm not, I don't want to say like it doesn't deserve what it be, but it just, because there's so many Knights army, it's kind of like easier to tell. And for me, this one is the one that's the lowest, the lowest like ranking, I guess, of them, just because there's a Canis Rex in every single one, so we can compare a Canis Rex with the other Canis Rex. There's a yellow army, so we can compare the yellow guy to the yellow army, and there's a red army, so we can compare the red Knights to the other. And then I feel like none of them kind of go up to the same standard as the one we've seen previously. But he does have the infantry and the really cool base thingy, so that he's got that going. And then the Knight, I think it's just a matter of like, again, maybe I'm also biased because it's another one of those mismatched army, and that's, as we've discussed, not my thing. So, I like this one because it really sets a base, right? You look at this big yellow guy, compare it with the yellow army, and then you can easily pick like your favorite. Look at the red one, compare with the other red ones. This one does have like more conversions, maybe, so that probably played a part in the in that factor, right? Because a lot of the Knights army that we've seen, they were a little bit more maybe stock, or with just like extra details, but not necessarily like bit swaps and converted. Austin Wingfield's army. So this is the other Space Wolf army. I think this one here, every mini, just incredible. The repulsor is completely insane. It's got like details everywhere. Same thing. The Rhino is like a big free-handed door. This army, same thing. The main issue with it is the display board is not great. The reason it's not great is that it hides the army. Like right now, you lose sight of a lot of the miniatures that are on the display board because you have a display board, but it doesn't add anything to the army. So that's also, if I move my head there, you can see this is a Bjorn the Fell-Handed, converted from an Age of Sigmar dude. This one is probably I like the Repulsor a lot, but this one is like a close second in terms of like cool. Oh no, is it Bjorn? No, Murderfang. Sorry, it's the Murderfang. Anyway, so that army is really insane. Again, in terms of model, I think the main issue, again, we're calling these issues, but it's just in order to tell them apart, I think the display board does not add to this army. It takes away from the army, where if you put the same army on the black tablecloth, you get like a higher overall effect. This is a Dark Angels type of army. I mean, it is a Dark Angel, but it's not the common Dark Angel colored army. I love this display board. First of all, because again, this display board, it kind of tells a story a little bit of like this an outpost, and it showcases the army that's on it because it's orange and the army on top is dark green. This one is also one of those the not greater than the sum of its part, where I think as a whole each mini is great, and then when you look at the entire thing, it doesn't feel necessarily like an army per se. But that's the problem with a lot of the Dark Angel stuff, just because of the Deathwing, Ravenwing, Greenwing type thing. But this one in terms of quality was really high quality in terms of the paint and minis, and also a style that's more I guess painterly, less like the typical miniature painting approach, more into like the competition painting approach. At least that's what it felt like to me. But they're also they're like inconsistent. Like some of the tanks are like if you look at the three Vindicators, they're all significantly different than one another, and then they're different than the first Gladiator, and then the other Gladiator is also different. Like I like the stuff to be kind of the same. Call me boring or well, I don't care, but the fact that they're all different like bothers me in terms of army painting. In terms of miniatures, I think they are awesome. That Votan army, another case of this display board. If it wasn't for the orange display on the display board, this would be amazing. I don't get the orange on the. This is my favorite army. I like everything about the Votan army except the orange. I don't get the orange section. The wheels are like weathered on the Sagittar and the Fortress, and they're not weathered with that orange. So mind-boggling. But everything is cool. Like the idea behind the display board is like exactly what you want. Like, he's got a nameplate that's separate. He's got a backdrop so it centers the army, and it's got like a thematic aspect going on with like the big gates that's very dwarf-like. But the orange color, like what? But look, if you look at like this is just insane. Like that, what I'm touching my screen, it doesn't work. The like the OSL, the tank has a light in it, but the red in the middle of the screen is an actual LED. But like everything, like it's got the firing bolters have like light effect on them. It's the bases for me are mind-boggling in terms of like this would win everything. It would win every single thing every time that I was a judge if it weren't for the orange base. I don't get it. Blows my mind. But that army is just great. This was my favorite of the. I mean, Dom's army is like really good, but I've seen Dom's army for the past like 5 years. So another space again. The Space Wolves one is fun because it's 3 Space Wolves army painted in a very Space Wolf style. Like they're all pretty much like they're like codex compliant Space Wolf. Nobody went like into a crazy turquoise pattern or anything. So we get to compare apples to apples again. So this one, in my mind, it goes Austin, this one, and then the first one. The first one is I think these two are really similar. I think the Austin's one takes it to the next level in terms of the quality of the miniatures, but this one and the first one that we saw are really Games Workshop looking in terms like the effect on them, the way that they're painted, and also these ones feature a lot more like actual Space Wolf units, which that was probably one of the low for me. Again, the low points of Austin Space Wolves was that it was more space, like they're all Vikings and stuff, and they got conversion, but the cool units they're not there. So I like the cool units, like the Thunderwolf cavalries. I love that. But this one again, another interesting thing is look how the red from the Skyclaws is popping next to everything else. So I get it that it's the lore and stuff, but they're the only guys with like yellow chainswords, and they're the only guys with red on their shoulder plates. So they stick out of this army, and it's the most like mundane unit in there. So to me, that's like a weak. Again, I get it because it's like codex compliancy, but to me that feels like a weakness in the bigger picture type thing, because it overshadows the turquoise of the frost weapon. Because there's a lot of like frost weapon going on, but you don't notice them because of that red and yellow coming at you. This is another one of those. This is a very next level painting looking army. Like if that person, I don't know who he is, somebody Serrano, if that person that was telling me I took classes with Kenny from Next Level Painting, I would say yeah, I would believe that. or watch tutorials, it's got the same feel, like the kind of heavy airbrushed feel. I love this style, but it's a very recognizable style. Again, what I don't get is like, what's going on with this army, man? Like, what is going? There's the red dudes with black shoulder plates. There's the golden dudes that are the golden dudes. Then there's a black unit that's Dead Company, that's black, and another Dead Company. And then there's these gray and blue Vindicator, and then there's this gray and blue unit with the gray and blue captain in there. Like, what? And then the white lieutenant over there in the back. Like, what's going on? So to me, again, this is another one of those. If you pick each like unit or each part of this army, they're just great. But when you look at the whole affair, it's just what? So the style really great, the painting really great, but all together it just a little bit kind of confused. I'm sure there's like a piece of lore that goes, yeah, this is this story, you filthy casual, and go, oh, cool.